All right, let's talk about the future. You know the one. The one from all those TED Talks and glossy tech commercials. In this future, the robots are here. They have gleaming chrome chassis, maybe a friendly blue lead for an eye, and they're busy on the factory floor, assembling cars, flipping burgers, and generally doing all the jobs we deem too dull, dirty, or dangerous. Meanwhile, we, the enlightened ones, the knowledge workers, are floating around in our ergonomic chairs, sipping artisanal coffee. We patted our expensive degrees and thought, good luck automating a passive-aggressive email, Tin Man. Our work wasn't physical, it was cerebral. We were the strategists, the creatives, the coders, the closers. We built our careers on the one thing a machine could never touch, the glorious, chaotic, and uniquely human mess inside our skulls. Our fortress was impenetrable. Well, I'm here to tell you that our fortress was actually a bounce house, and someone just unleashed a pack of rabid porcupines inside. The single greatest economic revolution of our time is not happening to the guy who fixes your plumbing. It's happening to the person who designs the PowerPoint presentation about plumbing. The silent, invisible tsunami of automation didn't crash into the world of atoms. It logged into the world of bits, and the comfortable, credentialed, and slightly too complacent world of the white-collar professional is the beach it is about to wipe clean. To understand why we got this so spectacularly wrong, we need to be brutally honest about what most white-collar work actually is. Forget the lofty job titles like Synergy Architect or Digital Transformation Ninja. For the last 50 years, a huge portion of office work has been a kind of cognitive assembly line. We became wizards of the spreadsheet, our dark magic the VLOOKUP and the pivot table. We became black belts in slide deck creation, able to communicate any quarterly result through a series of tastefully animated bullet points. We mastered the art of information arbitrage, finding information in one place, summarizing it, and sending it to another place. We became poets of the corporate email, crafting masterpieces of carefully worded ambiguity. Essentially, we became incredibly sophisticated information processors. And for a long time, that was a fantastic gig because the only processor in town that could handle nuance, context, and language was the 3-pound lump of jelly between our ears. The computer was just a very, very fast idiot. It did what it was told and nothing more. Then, generative AI waltzed in, not like a tool, but like a new hire. Imagine you just hired an intern, except this intern has read the entire internet, including that embarrassing blog you wrote in 2007. They can code in every language, write in the style of Shakespeare or a TMZ headline, produce a photorealistic image of a cat riding a T-Rex, and draft a comprehensive market analysis in about 45 seconds. They don't need coffee, they don't take lunch breaks, and they don't gossip by the water cooler. They run on electricity and a quiet hum of existential possibility, and they work for pennies. This is what's short-circuiting the entire white-collar economy. AI isn't coming for your job as a whole. Not yet. It's coming for your tasks. It's unbundling your profession. Think about it. That detailed Q, the 3rd of March Ketting report you spend a week compiling, the AI drafts a better one in the time it takes you to find the right jiffy for your team chat. Remember, spending 3 hours debugging your code only to find you missed a single semicolon. The AI finds it, fixes it, and gently suggests a more elegant way you could have written the entire function, wounding your pride in the process. That mountain of legal discovery documents that used to keep an entire team of paralegals employed and sleep-deprived for a month. AI sifts through it over the weekend. The core of the problem is that AI is devouring the boring stuff. But the boring stuff was the training ground. The boring stuff was how we learned. You became a senior partner by first spending a decade drowning in the boring stuff of contract review. You became a chief marketing officer by first grinding through years of boring data analysis. AI is essentially draining the shallow end of the pool, and we're about to throw a whole generation of graduates in and yell, "Okay, now learn to swim in the deep end." It's vaporizing the rungs on the career ladder, leaving a perilous gap between the entry level and the expert. This creates a terrifying economic landscape I like to call the kingdom of the superstars. AI acts as an insane leverage machine for those already at the top. The most brilliant legal mind doesn't need a team of 20 associates anymore. She needs a team of 3 and an army of AI agents. The most visionary architect can now visualize and iterate on 1,000 designs himself. This funnels an incredible amount of wealth and power into the hands of a tiny few, while the broad middle class of professionals, the competent, hardworking, but not quite, genius majority gets squeezed into irrelevance. And now, for the punchline. The cosmic joke in all of this. While this god-tier intelligence is busy passing the medical boards and designing new semiconductor chips, it is still, in the physical world, dumber than your cat. This is the hilarious reality of Moravec's paradox. The AI that can debate the nuances of Kantian ethics can't be trusted to pour a glass of milk without flooding your kitchen. It is like having Stephen Hawking's brain in a Roomba's body. The world of atoms, of physical stuff, is just too messy, too unpredictable. A plumber, navigating the unique chaos behind your walls, is a Jedi of the physical world. An electrician, a carpenter, a nurse, they are all masters of embodied cognition, solving complex, non-standard problems in three-dimensional space. Their jobs require a dance of dexterity, intuition, and real-world problem-solving that our digital gods can only dream of. The irony is staggering. The person we pay $50 an hour to write a marketing slogan is in more danger than the person we pay $150 an hour to fix our toilet. But my job is creative. I hear you cry, is it? Let's be honest about corporate creativity. Often, it's a ritualized process of finding the least offensive shade of beige for a website, or a brainstorming session where everyone agrees on the same idea the boss had last week. AI is a master of this kind of creativity. It can analyze every successful ad campaign from the last 20 years and generate 1,000 new ones that are perfectly blandly effective. The final pillar to crumble is the great promise of the college degree. For decades, that expensive piece of paper was a ticket to the middle class. Now, it is starting to look like a receipt for a product whose warranty just expired. We're saddling young people with mountains of debt to train them for jobs that are being systematically deconstructed by algorithms. So, are we all doomed? But we are at a profound inflection point. This isn't about unemployment. It is about a great redefinition of human value. For the first time in modern history, we are being forced to stop acting like second-rate computers and start acting like first-rate humans. The skills that matter now are the ones that can't be quantified and turned into data. It is genuine curiosity. It's empathy. It is the ability to inspire a team. It is the moral courage to make a tough call. It is the wisdom to know which problem is worth solving in the first place. The future of knowledge work isn't about having all the answers. The machine has the answers. It is about asking the most beautiful, the most challenging, and the most important questions. It's about rediscovering the things that make us irreplaceable: our hearts, our guts, our ability to connect with one another, and our stubborn, messy, glorious humanity. The robots are here, and they've given us an incredible gift, the urgent, terrifying, and wonderful opportunity to finally figure out what we humans are actually for.